So, there's a big discussion about black rooms versus white rooms or mainstream versus urban. You being somebody that's on the road that experiences both, what are those major differences right now?
Right now, I think one of the similarities, before I get into differences, that people are afraid of both. You have a lot of comics that are afraid of urban rooms, and then you have a lot of comics that don't feel like their message will convey in a mainstream room, not realizing if you write your joke, funny is funny. Period. Funny is funny. One of the major differences I see sometimes is certain rooms you can get away with saying certain things that you can't in other rooms that will be accepted. Like, you can, as a perfect example, as a black person, they will either, in a mainstream room, they will either absolutely love you or hate you when you drop the N-bomb. When you say it, they're either going to be like, oh my God, I love it, or they're going to be like, oh, that's too abrasive, that's too much, I can't take it, and you just never really know how the club's going to receive it, or they'll tell you, which I've noticed in some mainstream rooms, they'll tell us, well, this is a mainstream room, we don't want you to curse, we don't want you to do, they'll give you like a list of rules, and then a white comic will go on either before or after you, and none of those rules apply to them. Like, they'll give you a list of things that they don't want you to talk about. They'll give you a list of things like, oh, well, don't say this, and they'll say, oh, that's offensive, and this is that, the other, and that makes them feel uncomfortable. But then your white counterpart comes in, and then it's like, wait a minute. They just did everything you told me that I shouldn't do.
The main difference is, I think, in the white rooms, they give you a little more time to do your thing. Some black rooms, not all, some black rooms are just the same. It's everybody just sitting down, waiting to do their thing. But a lot of black rooms, they're ready for you to hit them with the bop, 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 bop. And then they feel comfortable enough for you to give them a story or two. But what I really want to say is, it's not as hard as like the comedians coming up, like Cedric the Entertainers and the Martin Lawrences of the world, with the black and the white, and even before that with the racial difference. I think hip hop has had a lot to do with bringing cultures together, so we can talk about more things at white places that rappers and their kids have been listening to, and they came up listening to with the Run DMCs and all that of the world. They came up listening to that, so they're kind of been let into our world a little bit anyway. So then when we talk about roaches or whatever kind of jokes you got about your culture, they've already been bought into it. So I think it's a lot easier for us. It's been made a lot easier for us. White people have been bumping Jay-Z and Diddy and Biggie and all that. So I think that's made it a lot easier for us than back in the 90s, 70s, 60s, whatever, when they was having to do comedy and it was strictly the white rooms. You had to do this, and this. Black rooms, you had to do this, and this. It's some white rooms you can do the exact same set you can do in the hood black rooms you can do in some white rooms. So I think that's really, really cool, and that's the awesome thing about comedy. Those working in black rooms is just like ninja practice. You know what I'm saying? It's sharpening your sword. It might be a nigga selling pit bull puppies right by the stage. It might be a nigga playing shooting pool right by where you're doing your thing, but you got to work it out. So then when you get to a room where people are listening, then you can do your thing because you've already been training really, really hard. You've been swimming with the sharks, so now you can just eat the fish. You know what I mean? It's no deal. Some of the white rooms, if you got some stories to work out, I feel like that's just a better place to kind of own them and feel comfortable with being slow in your delivery.
Etiquette, but I wouldn't say that's just a comedy thing. I think that's just naturally a black thing. We tend to act different when we're in their stuff. We don't tear their stuff up, we tear our stuff up. No respect for our own people. So it's a black man who owns the club, so we have less regard for his shit because we think there'll be less recourse about him coming after us, whereas they know white people will find your ass, you done broke 3 tables. Comedy-wise, again, etiquette. Comics will go over their time in the black room like it ain't shit. No recourse from the black establishment about him doing it. It's a disrespect to the whole night. Every comic and everything. White room, you go over your time about 3 minutes. Get to 4 minutes and they back there like, this guy thinks who in the fuck does this guy think he is? And no signs of you wrapping it up either?
My experience of black room versus a white room, I would have to say, is expectation, the audience expectations. I think white audience expects the show to be funny, so they give a little more leeway with how long before you might get the first laugh. Black audience doesn't expect it to be funny, so you have to win them over, and in winning them over, you have a short period of time. You don't win them over, it's pretty much over with for you. There's many pros and cons in both of them. It really depends on what you want to talk about, what you want to do. Like I would say in a predominantly white room, one of the pros is you can talk about anything, subject matter wise, there's no expectations. In a black room, you don't really get those laughs like you get in a white room. Like if you really kill in a black room, you get like people stomping their feet, they getting out of their chairs, like nothing else feels like that.
White people love black comedy, period. They'll go see a B.O. Hughley. I mean, I don't know, if you're talking about the difference between black comedians, you look at a Louis C.K. or a Chris Rock, it's from a different perspective, but they both have kind of an equal point of view. You know what I mean? They're both just as funny. No offense, Chris Rock. You're a legend of all time.
Right.
One of the reasons I started doing comedy. But at this point, I think the craft of comedy has merged so much. Why aren't the clubs catching up with that? You could put Louis C.K. with Chris Rock without a problem. You could put two major headliners, black and white, together on a show, and then no audience member would be upset. If I came to see Louis C.K., why is Chris Rock here? In the same case, But then a lot of times they want to put a black comedian with a white comedian. They don't want to put a white-black comedian. You know what I mean? So it's just, I don't know, it's a weird groove to find. It's all about making the people demand you. And once the people demand you, then the clubs have to have you. You put an ass in seats and not period. So define your own art and they'll come to you.